Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by PewSitter.com, your online Catholic newspaper for the third millennium, CatholicMediaCoalition.org, in line with the Church, online with the world.
And TheAmericanCatholic.com, politics and culture from a Catholic perspective.
Hello and welcome to today's edition of Catholic News Roundup. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. A lack of guidance. American bishops are choosing to be nearly mute once again when giving guidance to Catholic voters in the upcoming presidential election. TheChurchReport.com says the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops is releasing their guide for Catholic voters called Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship. And the only thing new is the introduction, even after more Orthodox Catholics in America have asked them to tighten up their loose rhetoric on abortion issues. In the last presidential election, dissenters from Catholic teaching like diplomat to Malta Doug Kamek whitewashed Barack Obama's anti-life and homosexual agenda to other Catholics, showing a great need for American bishops to reestablish their teaching authority. The Associated Press points out that only 16% of Catholics in America even knew the USCCB put out a guide on voting, and 3/4 of them said that the document had no influence on how they voted. Media Jihad. Globalist billionaire and insider trading convict George Soros is forging his own campaign to put a positive spin on jihadist Islam. OneNewsNow.com reports Soros is funding an online course for journalists called Covering Islam in America, partnering with the Social Science and Research Council and Washington State University. Dan Gaynor, Vice President for Business and Culture at the Culture and Media Institute of the Media Research Center, says the course is a guide on downplaying jihad. He says, quote, "It teaches quite literally to put the deaths of the 3,000 plus people that died on 9/11 in context so that you compare it against how many Americans are killed in murder. So instead of actually just telling the truth on this, they actually are teaching in a journalism program how to spin and make Islam look less radical." Organized bigotry. One of the fastest growing demographics in America, atheists, will be holding a convention in Connecticut this weekend as the Freedom from Religion Coalition, or the FFRC, hands out awards for noted accomplishments in stomping out Christianity. According to theblaze.com, the coalition believes, quote, "the most social and moral progress has been brought about by persons free from religion," end quote, and wants to completely rid any mention of God from American society. The Guardian quotes the co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, Laurie Gaylor, saying, quote, "It has never been better to be a free thinker or an agnostic in America," end quote. The FFRC is the same group that sued to stop Texas Governor Perry's Day of Prayer and had copies of the 10 Commandments removed from public schools in Virginia by threatening legal action. You can read more about the bigotry of the upcoming event put on by the Freedom from Religion Coalition on our resource page by clicking the link right over here. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few seconds.
Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by NewOxfordReview.org, the voice of Catholic Orthodoxy, in print and on the web, and RenewAmerica.com, expanding the influence of America's grassroots in the cause of freedom.
Churches on the cheap. You might be able to find bread ready to go bad at the grocery store being sold 3 for $1, but churches, the Windsor Star reports 3 churches in Essex County, Ontario are being sold by the diocese for $1 Canadian in an effort to attract bidders with proposals acceptable for the buildings. The structures have been protected by the Heritage Act, Ontario legislation, which protects the 3 churches from being demolished or stripped, and each one is also protected by restrictive covenants to keep them from being used for purposes contrary to church teaching. The Archdiocese says there have been over a dozen offers so far for Our Lady of the Rosary, which is in the best condition of the 3, but still needs thousands of dollars in immediate work and will also require millions in work over the next 10 years. Christophobia in football. It's tough being a celebrity these days, especially if one is a Christian, because you might become a polarizing figure in the public square. According to Catholic author George Weigel, the National Football League's Tim Tebow, a pro quarterback, may be suffering from what Weigel calls Christophobia. Tebow, a Heisman Trophy winner, spends a great deal of his spare time working in a mission in the Philippines, visiting sick kids in hospitals, and also says publicly that he is a virgin saving himself for marriage. You may remember that Tebow and his mother taped a pro-life commercial for Super Bowl 44. Weigel goes on to say that Tebow's career may be suffering at the hands of his, quote, Christophobic critics because of his calmness, decency, and virtue that his detractors simply cannot stomach in the face of their own lifestyles. If you'd like to read more about this story and others on our resource page, just click on the link right over here. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for your daily dose of Catholic News Roundup right here on RealCatholicTV.com. And be sure to check out the Vortex today, where Michael talks more about Obama. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to tell all your friends about us. And as always, God bless.